What's up, Commanders? Dimebot here, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Today, we are going to be taking a look at a menu that you're going to spend a lot of time interacting with, and one that can be kind of confusing, that being the outfitting menu. Yes, this is a tutorial on how the outfitting screen works. Now, I am in my Federal Corvette. We are actually not going to be using it, but I wanted to show you guys, if you'll note the number of hard points here, and the number of utility mounts available to this ship. This is one of the biggest differences as you change ships, is these two menus. We're going to be working with a good mid-range ship that a lot of you guys are going to have access to, and one that is actually pretty good for a large part of the game. That's going to be the Cobra Mark III. So we are immediately going to go back to Starport Services. If a station or a ground facility has outfitting, it will always be right here next to Livery, Advanced Maintenance, and Engineers Workshop, right under your profile. Click into that. You'll note right away a lot less hard points. Now, we're going to flip through these menus real quick, and then we're going to talk about them a little bit more in depth, but just so you guys know, hard points, anything that can be fired from your ship, pulse lasers, missiles, mining stuff. Utility mounts, this is going to be shield boosters, kill warrant scanners, wake scanners, chaff launchers, that kind of thing. Core internal, these are the things that make your ship function. Armor, power plants, thrusters, frameshift drive, life support, power distributors, sensors, and fuel tank. Optional internal, this is where everything else that's not core goes. You know, shield generator is in here. I consider shield generator to be a core internal, but it is optional. And then everything else you could use to build your ship. Your cargo racks, if you're going to do cargo hauling, refineries, and different types of limpets for mining, various things that you might want for exploration, vehicle bays. All of this stuff is going to be in your last two tabs. Let's go ahead and talk about these menus more in depth, because there's a lot of UI here and not all of it's very well explained. Now, at the bottom, there's two things I really want you guys to pay attention to. That is your power bar here and your jump range. These are two things that can be very, very heavily affected by outfitting. Pitch, hole, raw, that kind of thing. It can be affected, but you'll note right here, jump min, current, and max. This is your minimum range, your current range, and your maximum range. Not very great on this Cobra because I haven't really done much to it. And then your power draw retracted. Basically, if you've got your weapon systems and things retracted, deployed when you deploy those things, and your total power draw. Exceed total power draw, and your ship shuts down. There are ways to mitigate that, but that's not something we're going to cover in this video. Just know that it can be done. Let's flip back over to your hard points. We're just going to run down these in order from top to bottom. So once you click into any item in the outfitting menu, you're going to be given these three choices. You can sell your module, you can store your module, or you can swap your module. Sell, pretty self-explanatory. Store, you can store it, put it into your storage. Swap, that's if I want to swap it around with something else here. So this leads me to a note on how swapping and actually modules work. You'll see that we have Class 2, Class 1. If we switch over here to utility mounts, Class 0. And if we switch into here, Class 4. Now, I'm going to switch ships real quick back to the Corvette and show you guys something real quick. So, if we switch into outfitting with the Corvette, and we go and look at our core internals, you'll see that we go up to Class 8. Core internal modules, optional internals can go higher than 4. So for your very large ships, you're going to be seeing these much higher packages or numbers for the classes. However, to keep it more simple, we're just going to look at the Cobra, because there's a lot less clutter when you have a lot less items to take a look at. So again, for the hard points, let's say we want to replace the module. Let's look through. We have beam lasers, burst lasers, cannons, experimental weapons, fragment cannons, mines, mining tools, missiles, railguns, pulse lasers, plasma accelerators, multi-cannons, and torpedoes. These are basically all the different weapons you can have. You know, the thermal type and the kinetic type. Thermal is for damage against shields as a general rule. Kinetic, as a general rule, is for damage against hull. And then, of course, you have your things like torpedoes and missiles, which are obviously explosive. Now, within those, you have a couple different categories. You've got your turreted weapons, your fixed weapons, and your gimbaled weapons. The easiest way to think of this is fixed, you have to aim it yourself. Gimbaled, the game will assist in your aiming, and a turret is a turret. It'll aim for you. If you notice the damage per second numbers over here, they drop off the more aim assist that you have. So with a fixed, we're getting 9.8 per second DPS on this beam laser. We go to the gimbaled version, we're getting 7.7 DPS. We go to the turreted version, we are getting 5.4 DPS. You are getting a trade-off there for all of the aim assist. And as we go down, you'll notice right here you have this grayed out, barred out section. What does this mean? It means that it can't fit in that slot. This is a class 2 slot. It can take a class 2 or below. The same holds true for things here. This power plant slot, class 4, can take class 4 or below. You cannot take anything higher. The game will gray out things that you cannot take. Let's take a look back at those lasers. So class 3, a lot more damage. Class 3 can't go in this slot. So this is where you will be limited in what you can put on. Class 4 beam laser, that's a whole lot of damage. Also costs 8.5 million. Cannot put it in that slot because the Cobra can't take a weapon of that size. So depending on your ship, you are going to be limited to what you can place. So it is important that you get a good mix of damage if you're going to be fighting, or you fit what you want for mining in here. So a couple mining lasers, maybe subsurface, that kind of thing. But just know that, and this carries through with everything, you cannot put anything in a slot that is bigger than a number. Utility mounts, they're basically all going to be class 0. This is where another part of the outfitting screen is going to come into effect. You're going to see these 0E, D, C, B, A. This is another classification system. If you notice the stats when I go from a 0E kill warrant scanner to a 0D to a 0C, you'll note that the scanner range does increase. So do other stats like the integrity and also the power draw. So you will have 3A, 3B, that kind of thing. You need to pay attention to the stats over here. I'm not going to go through absolutely every permutation of it because that will be here till next week with this video, but just note that within the different number classes, there are also different number letter classifications as well. The core internal, this is potentially the single most important area of your ship because you have your power plant, your thrusters, your frameshift drive, and your power distributor right here. All of these directly impact how your ship is going to fly and fight. How fast, how efficient. So let's pop into power plants here. Now, we could store, I may actually have a power plant stored. So if we were to store it, go to my stored modules, and these are split into categories again. Power plants. So I do have several power plants stored. This is the one we just took out of it. None of them are for this ship. Some of them have been engineered, some of them not. One of them is on a ship that I did something naughty in and has legal issues. We'll go ahead and put this one back in. There we go. But with power plants, you will note that each power plant will have a different mass, different integrity, different power capacity. So let's browse through the modules right here. And the game handily codes it for you. You note that this 2E has a good bit lower mass by 2.5 tons, lower integrity, whole lot lower power capacity. If you look at the bottom right there, our ship can't run on this. You'll note the power deficit down there. As we go up, you'll see right here, here is a 4E. Here is a 4D. You'll see the difference. The module has less mass, less integrity, but a good bit higher power capacity and heat efficiency. 4B, even better. 4A would have us all the way up to a whopping 15.6 megawatts. So, as I said, within each classification, there are different letter grades as well. A, B, C, D, E, F. Just like you going from a good grade to a failing grade on your report card. This is going to hold true for thrusters. It's going to hold true for frameshift drives. Now, thrusters and frameshift drives have a couple other added caveats. They have mass requirements, minimum, optimal, maximum, and then the multipliers. You get your mass at the bottom down here. You can see your total mass right there. So this is the range that the thrusters can handle for your mass. Now, the multipliers, I am not good with this math, elite community. You can explain it down below. I'm going to make an idiot out of myself if I try to explain the multipliers. Just know that they are actually a thing. But in general, you want to make sure if you want a high maneuverability ship, you want a pretty good set of thrusters that is going to cover your optimal mass, your total mass down there. Now, if you are exploring and don't really care, you just are looking for the lightest weight, then you might not. And we're going to get into that here right now with Frameshift Drive. So Frameshift Drive. So we'll pop in here and look at these. So let's take a look at this drive. So you're going to see that they have a mass, integrity, power draw, boot time, optimized mass, thermal load, because as you've noticed, if you look at the game, when you engage your drive, it does heat your ship up. And then you're going to have your max fuel per jump, and also Super Cruise Overcharge if it's available. Super Cruise Overcharge is a thing that lets you go faster when you are in Super Cruise. To really see the effects of these drives, we're going to look at the jump at the bottom down here, and we're going to look at this 2D. So you know that takes our range all the way down to 1.8 light years. We hop up to a 3 light years. We're going to go to a 4E, 15.9 light years, 4D, 4D, 24, sorry. This is an SCO drive. The regular 4D is the 13, a 4C, 15, the 4C SCO, 23, and so on, until we start getting up into drives that this ship really can't fit. And you would see that, hey, if we were able to fit a 7C drive to this thing, it would take us 105 light years. So this is really where you need to pay attention. You are going to get yourself in trouble if you put too small of a frameshift drive on your ship. You want to try to balance your jump range for what you're doing. Exploration ship, you want a really long jump range. Cargo hauling, probably a mid-range. And if you're going to be a fighter, some people don't really bother with too efficient of a frameshift drive on a fighter. They'll just take an exploration ship somewhere and have the fighter ship there. I'm of the school that I like to have at least a decent bit of range, but opinions vary on this. It's whatever you want to do. Life support, the greater the life support, the longer you will have emergency life support. 5 minutes for this one. I believe they go all the way up to 15. Let's have a look. 25, rather. I don't ever really mess with this that much. My philosophy is if my windshield gets blown out, I'm probably either too far away to get help or I'm going to get blown up by whatever else damage is incoming after that. And now your power distributor. Here is another one that is extremely important. You have a good power plant, but you have a bad power distributor, you might as well not have a power plant. This is going to affect your weapons capacity and recharge, engine capacity and recharge, systems capacity and recharge, and a system is shields. So this is how much energy can each system hold and how quickly will it recharge. So with this setup, with this 3A, our weapons, our energy weapons, is 24 megawatts power. And would take, the recharge would be 2.8 megajoules per second. Now, for a combat ship, this is pretty important. It's also fairly important if you just want to run your ship without constantly being told that you're out of energy in your thrusters and things like that. This is one where if you're doing exploration, again, you can kind of skimp or cargo, but basically, if you were doing combat, you want a really good power distributor here. Sensors, this is basically how much range do you get on your sensors and the target scan angle. Now, fuel tank is something I don't really mess with or see a lot of people really messing with too much on this menu. You can add additional fuel tanks in the core internals for the most part, unless you're really, really going to be out exploring and cruising a lot. You'll generally be okay without messing with a fuel tank, so I wouldn't worry with that too much. Now, optional internal is where your ship is really made as far as what you're doing. If you're going to be running cargo, then of course you want cargo racks. If you're going to be doing mining, then of course you want to have limpets. You have field maintenance units here, which can repair internal ship modules in flight. You are going to have things like hatchbreaker limpets if you want to crack the cargo hatch of an enemy. If you're running passengers, you got your passenger cabins here, planetary vehicle hangars, repair, research, all that kind of thing. Shield cell banks, shield generators, surface scanners. This is where you add the bits that suit your ship for whatever role you're building it for. Shield generators. Now, shield generators, there's one thing to look at here just for your general knowledge, folks, and that is there are shield generators and there are bi-weave shield generators. Bi-weaves sacrifice your overall strength for a faster recharge rate. So it stays up less time before it breaks, but it comes back up quicker. Again, shield generators have other stats that go with them. These can all be modified through engineering. So your optimal masses, your max strength, your resistance to the different elements, kinetic, thermal, explosive, that kind of thing. These can all be modified by engineering. You just need to take a look at them. I prefer normal shield generators. A lot of people prefer Bioweave. It is a preference that suits what you experience and what you like in combat. You'll see we've got some incompatible slots here. You'll have also noticed that here the ship's mass exceeds the shield generator's capability. You will not be able to equip a shield generator that is too crappy. You can equip one that is crappy, but there's a limit to how bad of one you can equip. And of course, we aren't going to be able to put a 6A into a size 4 slot. The other thing that you can look at here is reinforcements. You have hull reinforcements. This is a package of armor, essentially, that increases your hull integrity and resistance to damage. You also have module reinforcements. This is the same thing, but for modules. It protects modules against weapon fires that's getting through your shields and through your hull. This is mainly a combat ship thing. You will often see that some of the larger ships like the Corvette, the Anaconda, will pack in multiple internal slots. You'll also see that some ships will have military slots here. I believe that is going to be your dropship class. Gunship will have those. And then you could put in things like the Advanced Planetary Approach Suite, docking computer, super cruise computer, that kind of thing. Last but not least, fighter hangars. If you can equip a fighter, this is where it'll be. And if you can equip a planetary vehicle hangar, then you can put your SRV in here. And that is essentially it. This is a menu that you need to click around a lot in. It's not the most graceful UI design in the world, but with a little bit of looking and paying attention to the different stats that are over here, you will be able to actually build out and customize your ship to do what you need to. I highly recommend looking at Elite Shipyard. You can theory craft your builds without having to go and buy every module in game and potentially waste some money, but that is essentially how this menu works. It's a lot. I know. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, guys. If you enjoyed the video, found it useful or helpful, hey, like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. If you're here to the end, watch time is key on YouTube, so thank you very much. My name is Dimebot, and I will see you guys next time.